Good evening to all you artists out there. So glad you're here with me tonight. I'm Alex Ellison, the creator of the Go Your Own Way Student Archetype Quiz. And I'm so glad you took the quiz and discovered you were an artist. I've got some of your questions here already submitted, and you can always type in your questions anytime during this call, so I hope you'll do that. You know, I admire artists. I really do. I think art schools are some of the coolest places to get an education, and I kind of think artists are going to inherit the earth when the rest of us can't make our way in an increasingly creative, innovative, think on your feet economy. Seriously, think about the survival skills artists have. They're the ones who are probably criticized the most, who are teased the most when they declare they want to major in art, and who are told they'll wind up living in their parents' basement. You know, artists are quite resilient and adaptable. I see artists as the makers, the innovators, the inventors, the ones who give us what we want, not just what we need, the ones who provide aesthetic in the world and enjoyment. In a world where more and more things can be automated, art is most certainly not one of those things. And artists don't just make art. The artist archetype you got from my quiz is more of a creator. Creators are found in all kinds of industries. Those people who come up with creative solutions to problems cannot be replaced by robots. Increasingly, I've found that schools of art and design are challenging students to create and design for the betterment of society too. There is a heavy burden placed on students at these schools to not just spend their college years navel gazing or painting in their dorm rooms, but to really identify social problems for which they can come up with creative solutions. Take Veronica Scott, an alumna of the College for Creative Studies in Detroit, who designed a coat that could be converted to a blanket for people living on the streets in Detroit. But that wasn't enough. She continued to turn her thriving business into one that hired homeless women. After one of them told her that living on the streets after living on the streets, what she really wanted was a job. And so I think this is a great example of, you know, how we can turn our creativity and our passion for art into something that really makes a difference. And more than that is actually a viable business. In the custom college plan you received from me after taking the archetype quiz, you would have found my 5 starter college recommendations for artists. My goal is to have you look beyond the more common and traditional schools and consider some places that are a little more daring, a little more out there. You know, this is where all the interesting things happen. And I think as artists, you want things that are a little more out there. You'll see, for example, the Copenhagen School of Design, where students begin industry-connected design and branding projects as soon as they step foot on campus. I have a student there now who in her first semester was working on a project for H&M. And the University of Utah, with its multidisciplinary design program that I'm in love with, it's awesome for students who just want to have a taste of multiple fields of design and don't want to make up their mind yet. So before we get into some questions, I want to just run some tips and ideas by you. You can glean what you think makes the most sense for you and your personal situation, but this is based on what I've seen work for artists like yourself. And of course, you can get a lot more information from your custom college plan that you received after taking your student archetype quiz. And if you want to retake the quiz at any time, you're welcome to. Just go to alexellison.com/quiz. You can also see what upcoming calls we have for the other archetypes at alexellison.com/workshops. So for some tips, even if you don't think your creative work is that great, start putting it in a digital portfolio or a physical one if that's more your style. Maybe you could even create your own website and work on your personal brand and test out your website development skills a little bit. It's better to have all of your work in one place and then later on decide what you want to submit to colleges and what you want to leave out, rather than to try to cram everything into a portfolio and try to remember where that painting you did from in 10th grade is now. So try to keep all that stuff together. Try also to attend a National Portfolio Day fair. These happen all over the country. If you Google National Portfolio Day fairs, you'll get a whole list of where they're happening, and hopefully there's going to be one near you. Ideally, you would go to one of these during your junior year. You'll get valuable feedback on your work from colleges you're most interested in, and that feedback is so important. Take it as constructive criticism. You have time to improve your work and improve your portfolio before you apply to colleges, so that's a real benefit. Creative classes are limited in high school, I know this, so supplement your schoolwork and get your creative fix by taking online classes through sites like Coursera or Creative Live. You'll learn something new and also show future colleges and employers that you go above and beyond for what you love. And choose volunteer activities that connect to your interests, such as volunteering at an art summer camp, a music therapy program, an after-school art program, or redesign a website and a logo for a local nonprofit. That would also be a fun way to test your skills. You'll bore yourself to tears if you try to do the same kinds of service and extracurricular activities as your friends, so don't compare yourself to them. Just do your thing. So you guys, I want to get to some of your questions now, and hopefully, if you didn't submit a question, hopefully your questions got answered just from what I had to share just now or from a question that someone else posts. But if I don't answer your question, please email me anytime at alex@duncecp.com. I'll look forward to hearing from you. So for the first question, I love photography, but I don't really want to major in it. What can I do with that? All right, so photography is the kind of activity that I find a lot of students do as a hobby, and most just sort of see it as that, just a hobby. But you really can do some really interesting things with photography, or I would say students who are good at photography tend to be good at a lot of other things too. I would definitely try to hone your skill in Photoshop and also try to build some skills in web development or web design. Start with building your own website that I just mentioned. This is a great way to keep all of your artwork together, have an online digital portfolio, and also kind of have fun creating your own personal brand and your own site. And try doing this or think about doing this for some of your friends and for maybe some local businesses or nonprofits. If you're interested in film, you could really offer your skills to design or put together a little commercial for a small business owner, publicity video, or I even had a film student do an athletic reel for a student who was trying to get recruited for Nordic skiing. So that's another way you can help out your friends with some of your skills. In college, students who have an acumen in photography will often go into things like graphic design, branding, marketing, advertising. So there's a lot you can do once you have that skill set and once you start to apply that skill in new ways. Next question, I want to do something creative for a career. I love all kinds of art and design things, but don't know what this means for college. Great question. I want to refer to a story that I share in my book that's coming out next month, so you'll have to wait till then to read this story for yourself, but I'll share a little bit of it with you. I had a student who knew two things when she started working with me. She knew she wanted to study design, and she knew she wanted to go to school in Copenhagen. That was it. So I said, well, design's a big field, so we need to kind of narrow that down a little bit. What area of design do you like to try? So I had her shadow 3 different individuals within the design space. One was sort of a furniture designer, and one was a graphic designer, and the other was an architect. And she shadowed all 3. And after she shadowed the graphic designer, she came to me and said, that is exactly what I want to do. She didn't really know that that was a thing, that you could design people's websites and brands and logos. And she was hooked. So she ended up going to the Copenhagen School of Design and studying business design and technology. So that's one way to sort of feel things out and see what areas of design most interest you, is do a few job shadows. I'm a huge fan of job shadowing. I think everyone should do at least 5 job shadows a year, even in industries that you're not totally interested in, because you don't know what you don't know. So put yourself out there and try some things on for size. I'm also a fan of taking online classes through websites I just mentioned, Coursera and Creative Live. You could obviously focus your search, your course search a little bit more on design, and I think that way you'll learn a bit more as well. Next question comes from a parent. She says, Mom here, I love that my daughter is so creative, but now that she's looking at colleges, I just feel like it's irresponsible and expensive to look at art schools. Help. Okay. So I hear this a lot from parents. There's sort of the old adage, oh, my kid's going to live in the basement if she goes to art school. I really do mean it when I say that I think the artists are maybe not going to inherit the earth, but are really going to do amazing things in the future, especially right now in this creative economy. Data suggests that more people are kind of living in this gig economy. There are more freelancers out there, that we're going to have a lot of sort of mini jobs, not just one long career in one industry or in one company. And so I think thinking on your toes, thinking creatively, constantly, kind of being a problem solver and being solution oriented is really important, whether or not you're an artist per se. So I think if you were feeling nervous about what an art school can lend to your daughter, I would look at some more comprehensive schools that have really robust and exciting art programs within them. I wouldn't rob your daughter of the opportunity to study art and design in college, because if she goes to college and has to study something she's not interested in, she'll likely not do very well and, heaven forbid, drop out. So we don't want that. We want her to feel engaged and motivated, but perhaps a nice middle ground is to go to a more comprehensive school where she can study art and design. I actually had a student in this very same situation this year, and she wanted to study fashion design. One of the programs that she looked at, which I would suggest you look at as well, is at the New School. You can actually double major or have a dual degree program with Parsons School of Design and the College of Arts and Sciences. So that way you have a little bit more of a balanced education, not just focused on design. The other thing I recommend is actually looking at some of the technical institutes. So one of my favorites for art and design kids is the Rochester Institute of Technology. So they actually have some really cool art design programs like photography, and you're at like a technical institute. So you have, you're surrounded by a lot of the math and science kids as well. So that can be a really interesting, unique experience for someone who, like your daughter, who's interested in art design. So yeah, I can't stress enough. I just want to kind of drive home the point, though, that don't sort of cut your daughter off entirely from studying art design. Hopefully you can find a middle ground. Last question here. If I know I want to study film in college, do I have to go to some sort of performing arts high school? It seems so competitive to get into film programs, so I want to make sure I'm prepared. You're right, it can be very competitive to get into some film programs. Often they're going to want to see a body of work, and you'll have to submit a portfolio. But that doesn't mean you have to go to a performing arts high school. There are a lot of ways that you can develop your skill, hone your craft, and create that portfolio. For one, you can go to summer programs at colleges, and that not always at colleges, but I would suggest checking out some of the summer programs that are at colleges that you're interested in, because then you can both work on building your skills, your portfolio, and also see what the college is like. So for example, Chapman University in California is famous for their Dodge Film School. You can go there and check out their summer programs, and that way you can start to build your body of work. You can also, though, build your body of work at home. And I mentioned earlier some of the things you can do for your friends, helping them with their performance reels, their athletic reels, or helping some local businesses or nonprofits make some of their video content. So there are a lot of ways that you can build your body of work without going to a specific performing arts high school. Not everyone has that opportunity, but certainly for some, that is the right thing to do. And if you really do feel like you want to surround yourself by other visual and performing artists, then sometimes a specific school like that, either a day school or boarding school, might be a good fit for you. But that's certainly not available to everyone. So there are definitely ways that you can develop your skills at home. Again, I'll mention Creative Live one more time. That's another good place to get some free instructional videos and courses from the experts in things like film and photography. So I think that's all we have time for tonight, all of you. But thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for your questions. And I hope you will join us for the other archetype calls. Even if you didn't test for another archetype, you are welcome to join in for the other archetype calls. And please send this along to your, the calendar of upcoming calls along to your friends if you think they would benefit. And I will also be sending out this video recording if you were not able to join us live. Thanks so much, and have a great evening.